Dudley, que es Senior Vice President, Investment Strategist y Portfolio Manager en Franklin Templeton. Katrina, thank you so much for being here in Negocios Televisión.
Thank you for having me.
The Bank of England hiked rates in 50 basis points, Katrina. That is what markets expected, but it surprised me, for example, what they said about inflation. They said uncertainty about inflation has fallen following the government's announcement of support measures of the energy crisis. Does this mean, Katrina, the Central Bank of England thinks inflation has already reached its peak?
I don't think that they think it's already reached its peak, but they do see some signs, as you indicate, of lessening. If you look, however, at the way the members voted in the BOE, you had 5 members looking for a 50 basis point hike, but it's the 3 members who wanted 75, which shows you that inflation still isn't off the table. There was obviously that one lonely member who was at 25 basis points, who's probably on the opposite side in terms of the inflation debate. But we do think that banks are still raising rates to combat inflation, because even with these measures that are being taken, it is still the biggest issue facing central banks.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday, Katrina, the market behaved erratically since the Fed published the statement about its monetary policy decision, and until Powell stopped speaking. Why do you think this was? What was it that made markets so volatile yesterday?
Look, I think that 75 basis points is now the new 25 basis points. So it's a big surprise to the market that they're talking about these types of, these rate rises. I think that the Fed is actually progressing very well and doing the right things in order to try and engineer a soft landing. But the market is a little skittish about whether or not he can engineer a soft landing or whether or not he will cause, through those rate rises, a full-blown recession. We continue to be in the camp that this recession, which we're technically in the United States, but we believe that the recession is going to be a very mild recession. You have a look at the data as it surrounds unemployment, and the Fed is myopically focused on that. We're at very low levels of unemployment, and I think that we're starting to see, as you've indicated, signs that some of the inflation pressures are starting to abate, and I think that's really positive. Finally, we can't look past what Jerome Powell said as it relates to the housing market, because that is one of our biggest economic engines. And he did cause concerns in the market when he talked about a need for that to slow.
Powell said, you spoke about recession, Katrina. Powell said yesterday, no one knows if rate hikes will bring a recession. To what extent is that true, that the Federal Reserve doesn't know that? How come the biggest central bank in the world does not know if what they're doing is causing a recession?
I think we're in a new normal here. We're facing conditions that we've never faced before. We're facing uninflation that we haven't seen since the 1970s. And there's no, if you look at in most of these central bankers' lifetimes, they've been in an environment where we've had extraordinarily low inflation, and we've been focused on getting inflation up to the 2% band, not getting the inflation down significantly to that 2% band. So I think that the Fed has a lot of people working on this. One of the things that we are very positively encouraged by is the forward guidance and the fact that the Fed is communicating its intentions. And you're seeing that communication continue. You're seeing it continue through their uncertainty over whether or not we go into a recession or not. And more importantly, you're seeing it through their commitment through those dot plots.
Katrina Dudley, Senior Vice President, Investment Strategist and Portfolio Manager at Franklin Templeton. Thank you so much.